Welcome to episode 32 of the Bulls Recap Podcast. I'm Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times. You can obviously read me in the Chicago Sun-Times. You could follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at @JCowleyHoops. This is the cleanup draft edition of the first round of the NBA draft. Wednesday night's first round concluded. I don't know. Do we pull out Kleenex for this one, or we just bring in a crime dog named Ryan McGuffey? I think that's kind of what we have to do. So first of all,
prepared we were, by the way, we were legit prepared, like hours in advance. Like, hey man, we're prepared to go live tonight if something big happens, if they surprise us, if they trade Kobe, like we're ready to go. And yeah, here we are, live the next day.
We didn't even have to text each other. It was just like,
no.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the Frenchman?
Yeah.
So, all right, let's start with the kid first, because I'm not blaming the kid by any means. And you know what? In 4 or 5 years, Noah could be, an all-star caliber player. No one knows.
Sure.
And that's the problem I have with that pick, is no one knows. Essen Gabe, look, he was projected to be a 10 through 20 selection. So it isn't like they reached. It isn't like – but here's the problem. Here's the big problem I had with it. You saw Malawash falling, and I know they love Common Malawash from Duke. Big man, big center, pure center, instant rim protector, rim runner, smart, high IQ, really good passer the second half of the season if you watch the Blue Devils, and an offensive game that's coming. An offensive game that's really raw but coming. So you see him slip. Everyone had him projected. Some people, I saw him as high as 4 or 5 in some mocks. I didn't think he'd go that high. I thought 7, 8, definitely by 9. When you see him slip to 10, and obviously Houston and Phoenix had the prearranged thing with the deal with KD. But when you see him there, and Phoenix, they're just kind of a team that's just trying to fix things right now. That's where you had to get aggressive. To me, that's what you had to get aggressive. So it isn't so much that they settled on an 18-year-old project who can't shoot from outside with any consistency, needs to add weight, needs to get stronger, does not play with physicality. It's just so many boxes that they continue to check over and over that irritate me of the problems with their team. And I thought they could have fixed that just by being aggressive. And the other part of it, too, is, to me, the front office has to do two things. You have to do two major things you have to recognize every year, especially a front office that's trapped in mediocrity. If you're not a top 4 team in your conference, the West or the East, your mentality has to be, A, do I get better? Is this draft class good enough for me to really look at the second half of our season and say, we got to let go of the rope so I can get as best lottery odds as I can get because this draft class is worth it. And then B, recognize, what is the landscape of my conference? Is my conference worth being aggressive and going up and attacking a chance to be a threat? Or am I in the West right now where it's just hell? Like, for Portland to decide all of a sudden that they might try and become a playoff team is ridiculous or New Orleans deciding they might try and become a playoff team by giving an unconditional first-round pick for next season and a loaded 20s. Ridiculous. So those are the two things you have to weigh. And I thought they failed the first one miserably at the mid to early point of this season. And then yesterday, they failed the other one by not being aggressive and saying, all right, even if Malawash is not ready for this upcoming season, we think he's coming quick. And then that frees us up. We can really be aggressive and kind of give Vooch away or Zach Collins away, because now we got a guy that's going to fit with our age group and our wave of player that we're about to pay in Josh Giddey, or that we're about to hope is an all-star type caliber player in Modest Buchelis. Those were the big problems I had, is just not identifying your surroundings as a front office. They continue to fail miserably in that department, and that's the job. That's the most important part of the job.
The reason I'm with you 100%, obviously, you just took another project So that to me just it kind of lines up with whatever their new contracts are, whatever those extensions are. It's just passing the buck and moving it down the line. That's to me. I hate player comps with a passion because I just think they're so unfair to kid to the kid. Yes. And I saw Pascal Siakam is the comp, and I'm like, okay, let's say that's the comp. That's probably 6-7 years away. Five years for sure. I mean, he's 18 years old. He's going to be 19 in December, and for you not to like your roster's just a 39-win roster. We know, and we don't even know. And I was going to ask you this later about some of the trade rumors. And you would think if Kobe and or Lonzo or somebody was going to be moved, that would have happened, right? Or is that still?
No, I don't think that was. So I tweeted that out that they're still aggressively talking about moving Lonzo and moving Kobe. And for some reason it got aggregated, but I don't even know the tweet website that they're looking to move them tonight before their pick, which I never said. They have been the one thing I can say has changed about this front office, and I've heard it not only inside the house, but outside of their house and from other executives and other people in the business, is the last probably 6 to 7 months, maybe since probably a month before the February trade deadline, Arturas Karnisovas has been easier to work with, whether it's more of an open dialogue, being more honest instead of being coy about his roster or what he's thinking about it, so more willing to part with his pieces instead of overvaluing them and refusing to let them go. So being told that, I know for sure that they have been told by Kobe White that he's betting on himself. He's not taking the hometown, and which is everyone knew was going to happen anyway, but he's not going to take the hometown extension and take way less money this summer. He's going to go through this season, bet on himself, knock on wood, he gets through, without injury. And he's going to try cashing in on the big four. He's a $40 million man. That's what he's played himself into, and that's what he feels he is. So the Bulls have to decide. We're about to put $30 million in Josh Giddey. Do we want to put a year? Do we want to put $40 million a year in Kobe White? And so they are doing their due diligence and seeing what the market's like for him if they decide not to do that, which you have to do if you're them. And so, and Lonzo Ball is a hot name right now. Because he is a perfect piece for so many, not like just teams in general, but really good teams, like teams that have like championship aspirations. He's a perfect come off the bench, stabilize it. He's not Alex Caruso, but he's damn close in what he could do when he's healthy and when he's playing. So, they have things that they can move. And I think they will continue to be aggressive in the next couple of weeks as we come to, the start of free agency in a week.
Yeah. We got a couple of questions here. Kyle says, what's up? Not really surprised by the pick. Another developmental player. As long as this isn't another P-Will, I'm good with it. How high is his ceiling in your mind?
I think what he can turn into is instantly a really good defender that guards your 1 through 4s. I think he's 6'9", 6'10", long wingspan. He could, if he adds a little more weight, he could help when they go with a small death lineup. If they either want to put him at the 4 and Buchelis at the 5, or him at the 5, Buchelis at the 4. I don't think he's the rim protector Modis is. He can grow into that because his game is above the rim. The things that scare me, the outside shot needs a ton of work. It's kind of like Dalen Terry. It's kind of like, it's just kind of like a lot of guys they have. I wouldn't say he's only one-dimensional, but one dimension is far ahead of the other one. So he could be a two-dimensional player, a two-way player. He's not that right now. So I'm not killing the kid. I don't hate the pick at 12. I hate the pick for the Bulls at 12 because I think they could have done. I think they could have done more with it as far as from an aggressive standpoint. But, we'll see. I think, I definitely think he didn't go they didn't reach for him. So we'll see. But the defense will be felt. The problem is if God forbid, these knuckleheads can't do shit and move anybody. And this roster is the roster. I mean, tonight, the second round pick, forget about it. They already bumped down to the Lakers pick, and they're probably just trying to dump it and get rid of it altogether. They could just draft and stash, but that kind of gets tricky because you got to make sure that the kid's good enough to be picked, and secondly, that he's not too good that he changes his mind and wants to come over here. because they don't have the roster space for that. So you figure if they up Giddey, which is going to happen, this kid, and then they've got the mid-level trade exception that they're going to fill, that puts them at 15. That's a full roster. That's it. Boom, bam, bang, game over. So they can't add a pick tonight. So if nothing changes, this kid's going to see he's going to get a lot of playing time if you want to drive your ass up to Hoffman Estates. They better have good French food up at Hoffman Estates where the G League team plays, because he'll be a fixture for the Windy City Bulls. That's how he's probably going to have to get a lot of his playing time this year.
So there's been the reaction you would expect. Cap was fired up about the Bulls selling their pick tonight, 45 to move to 55, and just for cash. I mean, I don't know. To me, I think it's you know why though? I just think it's angst against the front office.
Yes.
So it's more
ownership.
Yeah.
It's angst against Jerry Reinsdorf because everyone thinks he's petty with the way he handles cash considerations. And so I get that. But when you look at it, if you just take it in a vacuum of this move, if you can get cash for a pick you don't want and you have no room for, take the cash. I would take the cash.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, again, that's just because the fingerprints of Jerry Reinsdorf are on so many cash back considerations that people can't help. But as soon as they read that in Bulls White Sox, they get pissed.
See, Dr. Professor, Bulls legend, cash considerations.
And there you go.
Right on cue. I want to ask you about your reactions last night to the press conference, because my God, I mean, Mark Eversley needs to go back to like how to do a press conference school. I mean,
the problem is this is probably the first time they let him go out there and actually run.
I know.
And he tried to do it like Arturis with that.
It felt like,
yes,
it felt very hi, thank you for being here.
Right, because they do that stupid ass script that they both read off of to start it.
Literally how do you do that?
I wish, Arturis, it's not even a language thing. It's a comfort thing with him that he feels like he has to read an opening statement. That's fine. Mark Eversley, I think, was doing it because that's how Arturis does it. And I know Mark is a lot more of an ad-lib or freelance speaker. I wish he would have just gone up there and gone, all right, let's go. Let's take some questions. And boom.
Yes.
Show that you're under the same umbrella as Arturis, but you're not a puppet. You're not his little lapdog that does exactly what he does. Wouldn't you
want to show that you have a spine? Like in that,
if you're Mark Eversley, yes. If I'm Mark Eversley and I want another job at an executive position, I want to show my own personality and my own ability to do things instead of just how Arturis does it and how he wants to do it. So, that was painful. That was disappointing because I know Mark, just BSing with him away from it, is a lot better speaker and more comfortable than he showed yesterday. And you know what? Actually, Arturis, when you're not talking basketball with Arturis, he's really a good conversationalist. He's funny, real dry sense of humor. But Mark, I just wish he wouldn't have just been a poor Xerox copy of Arturis. It was, right there just started things off badly. And again, to lead the press conference off with a big soliloquy about Billy Donovan and why you're not going to talk about him, I would have been like, okay, hey, one thing, team policy, whether we love it or we don't love it, we're not going to talk about contract extensions, anything else, boom, go fire away. And then boom, it would have been a lot more laid back. But instead they make everything uptight. They make everything difficult.
Yeah, which is why they keep getting the noise. Shad says they sold themselves on a combination of Modest, Patrick, Noah, and Phillips as their version of Pacers OKC wing options. The part that lowers the floor and ceiling is lack of confidence in point guard long term.
There's more problems than just that. So that's one of the things Mark, I knew that Pacers were going to come up. I knew somehow, some way Mark was going to bring up the Pacers. So, and the way he phrased it, he said, look, just watching the finals with the Pacers and, the high pace and blah, blah, blah. And, you can't hunt their guys out. And, meaning they're all good defenders too. You could argue if Halliburton's actually a good defender, but he's better than Giddey. So, and so that's why I quickly jumped on him on that question. I said, I know you just brought up Indiana, but two problems. They have Halliburton. They have a dude. You don't have that dude. And right. B, you got all kind of players to hunt out. So, yes, the pace is the same as Indiana, the philosophy of run, the philosophy of shoot a lot of threes. Yeah, you could check those 2 boxes, but you're missing 3 key boxes. You're missing A, the element of you have guys that can be hunted out. B, you don't have that dude. And C, you guys have not addressed the defensive issues that Indiana's addressed. Indiana is a physical. I have not seen, and obviously the 2 teams got very familiar with them, but I have not seen a team this entire season play OKC with that type of physicality. And Indiana can be a physical, run a wave of guys that just will bump you and grind you type of team. And they were OKC's a really physical team, and Indiana was right there in physicality. So, yeah, it's great to say, well, we're building out a team with depth, and we're running and we're shooting threes, but you're still missing half the elements. So that's what I had a problem with, and I asked him about it and called him on it. And you know, he didn't really give an answer, but what's he supposed to say?
You mentioned earlier about the East, and like this is why you're frustrated with the Bulls, because their lack of aggressiveness. With the injuries in the East, okay, Boston's taking a big step back. Indiana's taking a big step back. Lillard's banged up for the Bucks. I mean, Orlando made a trade as if they're going for it in the East.
Huge trade.
So you right now, like if I'm looking at the East right now, are we giving Cleveland de facto number 1?
I'll even go further than the things you mentioned. I'm saying Cleveland, all they've proven is they're a great regular season regular season team with a fraud coach. I've never liked Atkinson. I always thought he was a fraud. I thought he's an operator. He's Jim Boylan if Jim Boylan actually knew X's and O's. That's all Atkinson is. That's why I said if I was Cleveland, I would fire Atkinson, pay him, and hire Tibbs with that team that's there without question.
I mean,
New York,
if you look,
there's
the Knicks. Are the Knicks going to? They don't even have a coach. Ownership's going to ruin everything that they have, any momentum. Right. It's like, I mean, Boston will still be good, but they're going to be probably more on the 40-win side.
Yes.
Detroit probably takes a big step.
Detroit and Orlando are going to take the big steps, and Philadelphia if everyone's healthy. Yes. Yep.
Think about that. And that's what should piss Bulls fans off about is exactly what you said at the top here. You have a shot here to kind of even fool yourselves into being like a 7 or because the East is so wide open. And that's if their roster, by the way, that's what the current roster. We'll yet to see what's going to happen. If you're going to be in the middle, you might as well be a playoff team. The East, outside of those couple of teams we mentioned, no idea. You can guarantee there's nothing you can say that guarantees any of those teams are 45 or more wins outside of Cleveland, probably Detroit, probably Orlando, and Philadelphia.
And Philadelphia. And even to me, the bigger kick in the groin is if it didn't work for the Bulls this season, they're all 1-year deals. They're about to lose a bunch of guys anyway. So why not be aggressive for this one season? If it works, you can pick and choose which guys you want to retain and say, this guy was important in us becoming a 4 seed. This guy was important in us becoming. This guy wasn't. We could lose him. And now we have a bunch of cap money to spend to go fill in the pieces. But you would have known more about what you are. You don't just running on this treadmill of mediocrity. What's going to get answered this year? If something does get answered, Kobe's 28 a game now. Oh, well, what got answered? Nothing. We got to pay him $40 million. That's the answer. After you've already paid Josh Giddey, you've already upped the front office. Billy Donovan, I have not been told officially it's done, but it feels like it's been done already, his contract extension, the way they were talking yesterday and, just some of the whispers I've heard. It's pretty much done. So he's extended. So you have all these things in place. Why not be aggressive and flex the arms for 1 year to see kind of what you are, build some hope with the fan base. You're so worried about getting these young guys to play in big games. You would have been playing some big-ass games if you were a little more aggressive. And then you got all these guys that are 1-year contracts. You could have just been like, okay, we like what Collins did. We don't like what this guy did. You kind of pick and choose. But I don't know. I'm just an idiot writer. What do I know?
Charles wants to know, what do you think they get for Vooch in a trade?
The Kuminga stuff is still alive. I think Golden State is waiting for the free agency to start. And then, first of all, it shouldn't even be called free agency anymore. It should be called sign and trade because that's really what it's going to become now. Yeah. The apron has killed the free agency that you and I grew up with, where you'd be excited about, hey, these guys are all free agents, and that doesn't happen anymore. So the Kuminga thing, I think, is still alive and well. I don't think they've completely cut off those talks. And Vooch obviously would be a part of that because I think Golden State would love to get some size because they're just too small. I mean, that got shown. They're just too small, and I think Vooch would play really well with those guys, what he could do, what his skill set is.
I love this. I love this from Eli. He lives in Jerusalem and wants to know if they'll trade Kobe, Vooch, and Ball, and is it worth it for him to even watch the Bulls this season in Jerusalem?
I think at least one of those guys is getting traded, and yes, it's worth for you to watch the Bulls this season because of Modest Buchelis.
All right. It's a cookie. There's a carrot.
Yeah.
Lip Ripper says, see if the Pacers want Kobe to free up some money.
Pacers got their own issues. They got some big decisions to make on their own with their roster. So adding Kobe on an expiring contract just to fill in for Halliburton, I don't know if they would do that for just a year because Halliburton's coming back. And then, what did you give up to get Kobe? I understand how you're thinking, but it really doesn't make sense for Indiana to do.
Justin says, just tuned in. Do you think in 2 or 3 years, Modest and Noah could be a great combo? I don't like the pick trade thing either. I think he's talking about the second-round pick trade.
Yeah, I think Buchelis can teeter with not because he won't get the votes, but I think Buchelis can teeter with all-star game possibilities this year and next year at the latest.
Ooh.
I think there's going to be a Buchelis bust out that will have the city very excited and captivated. No injuries.
Give me no injuries. Give me a slash line. What's that look like?
I think for him it will look like I'm going to say he jumps up to 21, 9, and 1.9 blocks per game.
Yeah, I mean that's a major leap.
That's a big jump.
All right. Well, that should get people then to your point to our guy Eli in Jerusalem. If that's the kind of year you're getting from Modest, sign me up for that. A couple more here. Mike says I like the pick over Queen. If you're just comparing it one guy for one guy, okay. But there's
right. So like everyone's like, well, we're going to look at this draft in a couple of years, and that's going to haunt us that New Orleans swept in. That's not how it works because New Orleans doesn't play with the pace that the Bulls play. So there's a Queen's going to have a better year than Noah Essengate this year. He just is. But they play slower. They play totally different style of basketball than the Bulls are playing. Who knows what Zion are you getting? If you're getting a Zion who's committed, if Zion is committed and healthy, he's a top 10 player in the league. He does what only probably 8 or 9 other guys in the entire league can do better than him. Period. If they have that, then Derek Queen's freed up a lot and he could slowly develop because I think on paper they could actually be a pretty solid team, even in the West. So it's unfair to compare him because Derek Queen couldn't do for the Bulls what he can do for New Orleans.
You mentioned this before.
Yes,
like earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I say yes. To me, Zion, A, needs a change of address. B, stop dating porno stars. C,
that's bad, huh?
It's bad. It is bad. Eventually, it's bad. And C, start taking his craft seriously because I think he's going to be an elite player. And see, it's such an unfulfilled career right now. That's the frustration with Zion because I think he's everyone's face of the league. If he took the game serious and took his body serious, his name would be in the hat. I'm not saying he'd be it. His name would be in the hat because in 2 years, Cooper Fly is going to take that hat and put it on his head, and all the other names are going to fall out. So.
Give me a team before I run. Give me a team that last night you're like, yeah, I see what you're doing and I really like it.
I love what San Antonio's doing because they're just, with Dylan Harper, everyone's going to say, well, they got Darren Fox, Stephon Castle from last year. Wemby's got to be healthy. As long as everyone's healthy, the guard room seems crowded, but it's not because they gave themselves some room to make a move. They got the kid from Arizona. They got their defensive wing. So I love what they did. I think they're building that team. It's a smart build so far. They're still probably a year or two away, but I love what they did because there was rumors. Are they going to trade Dylan Harper and trade out of that spot and try going with the big Giannis rumors that have been around? They didn't try swinging out of their heels. They just said, hey, we believe in this young wave. We believe in these young guys, and we're going to stay the course. So I like what they did. I like what they've done the last couple of years. They know that's a team that understands knowing when to tank. Wemby's coming up. Let's try and get him.
Well, they have a history of that.
Yeah.
That's what good organizations do. They know when to strike. They know when to lay off. They know when to admit, we're going to take this year off, and it's going to pay for us. It's going to pay huge dividends years and years and decades later, a la Tim Duncan.
Yep.
So, all right. The kid, that has nothing to do with the kid, as we've talked about.
Yes.
What are you grading the Bulls pick last night?
I'm going to give it, I'm going to separate it two different ways. I'm going to give the selection of the kid a B minus maybe, because you got to be patient with them. I'm going to give the Bulls selection of the kid something different. I'm going to give it a C for their lack of aggressiveness with what I saw. Like I said, when Malawash started falling, that's when you had to leap. That's when you had to address it. And they didn't. And, they said they tried. They talked to 3 or 4 different teams about moving up. At some point, maybe you got to put more on the table. So I would say one grade, we'll give it a B minus overall. B minus C plus.
All right. And lastly, the next domino or big news coming from the Chicago Bulls will be ...
It will be a trade. Vucevic gets traded.
There we go. Okay.
That's why I say he's going to be the first piece. It will not include Patrick Williams as much as Bulls fans want it to happen. It's funny because I was walking out of the Advocate Center yesterday and the concert, I think it was Little Baby, was the concert. P. Will and Horton Tucker, they all come rolling in. And I knew they were at the concert. I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, late night workout. I was like, oh, yeah, you guys look like you're going for a late night workout. So
workout was already done at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that will be the first domino to fall.
Joe, you're the best. Good stuff. A lot of good questions from the fan base here. I know there's people that are up in arms because it's the Bulls, but it is what it is. We'll keep on doing these. I know you're going to the Summer League in Vegas in a few weeks, and you got to put a bow on this one. In the meantime, I think you have a list and more to come.
Quick list. I'm going to do a quick list of 3 picks that I really, really, really liked. I mean, number one is obvious. Cooper Flagg. Yeah, I've seen articles that Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey's better than Cooper Flagg, or AJ DeBonsa, next year's projected top 3 pick. You go Stevenson, you go Boozer, one of the Boozer twins. You could go, however you want to do it, is better than Cooper Flagg. No, they're not. They're just not. This kid is about, and I love the market he ended up with Dallas. So as obvious as it is to say, oh, number one, the biggest winner is Dallas. Yes, they are. And they won a month ago when they won that lottery. So by far, it was a no-brainer pick. Cooper Flagg, biggest winner, Dallas Mavericks. Enough said. My number 2 biggest winning team. Love what Charlotte did, Con Knippel. They need an adult on that team. Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball. They just all play. It seems like they play unserious basketball. This is a serious dude. Con Knippel will change the culture of what has been a kind of a laughing stock. The other one I like. Let's go. What was it? Oh, yeah. Well, obviously number 10. Common Malawach. I know I'm going to Duke boys, and trust me, I hate Duke basketball. I never got over what they did to UNLV Running Rebels. Larry Johnson, Grandmama, Anderson Hunt, all the boys. Stacey Augman. So, love this kid. Like I mentioned earlier, I think his offense is just coming quickly. And I think he is going to be a great addition for Phoenix that is trying to turn this thing around quickly. What was the fourth one? Oh, Caspi Jaspy, the Illinois guy. For him to fall down to Miami, and look, there was talk that he could go to the Bulls. I didn't think he was because his game's very redundant to Josh Giddey's, and they're committed to Josh Giddey. But for him to fall down to Miami, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good situation for him. And then the last one, Asa Newell, to fall down to 23 to get a guy who's a rim runner, a shot blocker, a antagonist, plays with a joy. He reminds me of Joakim Noah because he just plays with a love and a joy for the game. I thought him falling that far, and he's instantly going to help a team out. He's not just some guy who's going to be playing G League and searching for minutes. So I thought those when the draft came and went, that first round came and went, I looked and I said, yeah, those 4 dudes ended up on 4 teams that are going to be glad they picked him. So, but obviously the night it's all Cooper Flag. I think he's going to be phenomenal. I think the league is about to have a takeover when it needs it most, and it's going to start Cooper Flag. So that's it for me this week. Until next week, I got next.